Welcome to Recap Kun. The story begins with the main leading character. Her name is Ji-won. She appears to be unwell and is currently in the hospital. Consequently, Soo-min, Ji-won's closest friend, shows up there. Ji-won is upset because she just found out that her husband is cheating on her with another woman. To ease her feelings, Soo-min expresses sympathy. She feels lonely and deprived of happiness, and begins to recall her old memories of when she got married to her husband Min-hwan. However, it was misfortune for her. Ji-won's mother-in-law never liked her and always bullied her. The man she married as the love of her life ended up being a worthless, lazy boy. One day at the office, as she's getting scolded by her manager Mr. Kim, she unexpectedly began to bleed from her nose, and it was later discovered that she's suffering from stage 4 gastric cancer. Her family, however, encourages her to continue working until she is able to do so, and is not at all concerned about her health. She's currently being treated. As she's headed towards another ward, a woman tries to console her, telling her it's okay if her husband is a cheater. At least she got a great friend like Soo-min, which puts a wide smile on her face. However, during this, we learn that Soo-min is the woman having an affair with Ji-won's husband behind her back. A staff member abruptly informs her that she must pay her bills in order to continue receiving treatment. Ji-won tries to call her husband Min-hwan, but he does not return her calls or messages. Ji-won takes a taxi to her house, and the driver, who appears to know her well, tries to reassure her that she will soon recover. However, Ji-won is beginning to doubt this. Suddenly, the driver takes a wrong turn and leads her to a location with cherry blossom trees, which is just another shortcut to her house. She pays the driver and exits the vehicle. Nevertheless, the driver is kind, telling her that this is his last day working as a taxi driver. He calls her his daughter and returns her money. When she enters her home, she finds Soo-min and Min-hwan sitting on the bed discussing an insurance policy that Min-hwan will receive in the event that Ji-won passes away. She also learns that Min-hwan had planned to marry her from the start because he anticipated that she would develop cancer, just like her father had. Soo-min wants Ji-won to pass away quickly so they can use the insurance money to buy a new home and live a lavish lifestyle. She lost it and stormed into the room, hurling objects at them in a fit of rage. As things worsened, Min-hwan grabbed her firmly and threw her onto the glass table, whereupon she succumbed to severe bleeding and died instantly. Nevertheless, she awakens miraculously and finds herself in her office. She puts on her glasses, recognizes Min-hwan, and starts berating him in front of the staff members before General Manager Ji Hyuk stops her. When she recognizes that she is at her office rather than her home as she should be, she rushes to the mirror to take a quick look at herself and is startled. She trips and falls, and Ji Hyuk stops her from getting burned by the boiling water. He swiftly holds her and asks if she's okay, and subsequently Min-hwan and Soo-min arrive there to check up on her, which reminded her of their future evil selves. But she begins to ignore them all and flees. She intends to return home to investigate the situation, but she trips and is fortunately saved by Ji Hyuk once more. Ji-won realizes as she surveys her surroundings that the time has changed from 2023 to 2013. Ji Hyuk brings her shoes back, and then drops her home. After entering, though still very perplexed by this time travel thing, Ji-won discovers that the money she got from the taxi driver has a heart-shaped mark on it. It turns out that the taxi driver was actually her late father, and that may have been the reason she went back in time. Suddenly she hears a doorbell. Her lover turned spouse and murderer stops by the apartment and extends an invitation for dinner. Although she went with him, it was only to tell him that she wants to break up with him. However, Min-hwan couldn't let his plan fail and tried to threaten her stay with him. She began to scream for help and they landed at the police station. But since he didn't hurt her, the cops couldn't do anything to Min-hwan and Ji-won gets back home. She considers leaving him to protect herself, but she is strapped for cash because Min-hwan has already taken out the majority of her bank account balance. However, since she knows the future, she thinks of a great idea to invest in the companies that will land her a huge profit. She starts reading books about stock market strategies where unexpectedly she encounters General Manager Ji Hyuk. He's surprised to see her reading such books as if she's trying to quit her job. Ji-won notices a burn mark on Ji Hyuk's wrist which he got from the water jug. She apologizes for causing trouble at the office. However, Ji Hyuk isn't mad, though he asks her to treat him somewhere nice. They go to a classy restaurant. Hyuk takes off his glasses which surprises Ji-won. Suddenly, she notices the wound on his hand that resembles the wound marks she had in the future. Suddenly, she gets a call from Soo-min. However, she ignores her, and Sumin messages her to call back as she misses her. She goes to her office and starts to ignore Minhwan while purchasing a particular stock in large quantities. Suddenly Sumin arrives there. She says she missed her and was expecting her call. However, Ji-won isn't going to be fooled by her innocence. Later at the dining hall, she gets a hindsight that the cup is about to fall and she hurts her knees trying to save it. However, this time she manages to avoid the boxes and saves the cup from falling, whilst avoiding being hurt. Later, as Minhwan spots her, she tries to run away and falls down, eventually hurting herself at the same spot. She gets worried as she realizes that the future is inevitable, and whatever happened to her will eventually happen once again. However, she learns that the things that happened to her can be diverted to somebody else in order to protect herself. Ji-won wants Sumin to steal her fate and marry her husband. Later, she meets with Hyuk and informs him that she's not going to quit the company anymore, which puts a smile on his face. He asks her to go out with him for dinner on weekends, but they get interrupted by Sumin, telling Hyul that she's already promised her to go out with her instead. Hyuk leaves from there and begins to dig out information on Ji-won. Later, while working, she gets a message from Minhwan, wanting to meet with her outside. They go outside together as Hyuk notices them. He takes her inside the storeroom and gets angry at her for ignoring him and trying to impress the general manager Hyuk. Ji-won doesn't want to cause much trouble and lies that she didn't really break up with him. However, she wants him to be a model husband that every woman wants. He gets happy and tries to kiss her. Luckily, her fellow employee Ms. Yang arrives there, and Minhwan leaves the room. Later at the cafeteria, Ji-won recalls the time when on this same day and time, Sumin intentionally bumped into her and even spilled her own food onto her on purpose. However, she won't let that happen to her again and swiftly dodges Sumin. She ends up spilling the food on Minhwan instead. At the restroom, she hears a woman calling for help as she's having periods and wants a sanitary pad. She goes to get one and helps her out. Yu thanks Ji-won for her kindness. And in this way Ji-won makes a good friend. She invited Yu to have lunch with them, but Sumin didn't like Yu. Suddenly, Ji-won starts choking on food, so Yu stands up to get some water. Sumin asks her to bring some for her too, but Yu refuses and goes away. And Ji-won also goes after her. Sumin gets jealous of Ji-won getting a new friend and thinks she's ignoring her because she ruined Hwan's shirt. Suddenly they get pushed inside the elevator and get uncomfortable with each other. However, Sumin starts to tease him. As Yu and Ji-won are eating out, Ji-won gets a message and decides to leave. Yu gets sad, however, she asks her to go out with her on Sunday, but she refuses since she already has a school reunion to attend to on Sunday. Later, she finds a gift on her desk left by Sumin. She wants her to wear these earrings at the school reunion so that her friends can bully Ji-won. Sumin messages Ji-won that she wants to crash at her place and Hwan also wants to sleep with her. She's annoyed by this. However, she wants to use this as an opportunity to get Sumin and Hwan close to each other. As she's heading out, she encounters Hyuk. After noticing the earrings in her hand, he informs her that they're a replica and she shouldn't wear those. He offers her a ride to house, but Ji-won declined his offer, informing him that she has plans with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend arrives at her house before her. She informs him that she'll be there soon and asks him to get inside, and then gets a cutesy message full of emojis from Sumin as she's excited to visit. But after receiving a plain text from Ji-won, Sumin gets upset and cancels her plan to crash at Ji-won's house. Ji-won gets to the apartment to learn that Sumin isn't coming, and suddenly notices Hwan behind. He's excited to do it with her and pushes her to bed. She is scared and asks him to put on clothes, but he takes off the towel as she begins to scream with shame. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and she rushes to the door, only to discover the food delivery boy outside. Since they had not placed an order, Hwan angrily tells him to leave them alone. Ji-won seizes the chance to send him outside, shuts the door, and requests that him to leave because she feels awkward doing it so abruptly. Furthermore, we learn that Hyuk sent the delivery man to save her. In an odd twist of events, Hyuk also met with Ji-won's former classmate Eun-ho and asked him to come to their school reunion. Eun-ho and Ji-won had feelings for each other in high school. Upon arriving at the Gozuljung Cafe, Sumin runs into her former classmates. They are initially impressed by her employment at such a prestigious company, but they soon become enraged that she also invited that loser Ji-won, and they begin disparaging Ji-won. They all detested Ji-won because Sumin had tricked them into thinking that she was a bad person who used Sumin and mimicked everything she did. All of a sudden, Sumin receives a call from Ji-won informing her that she has arrived at the cafe. When she turns around, she is taken aback by Ji-won's unexpected appearance. We then cut to a flashback in which we learn that she had a meeting with Yu, her new real best friend, prior to the reunion. You then took her to a posh beauty salon where she received a full makeover. Ji-won sits down at the chair as her bully Yeji gets upset. She did not expect a loser girl like Ji-won becoming so beautiful and confident. She points out that Ji-won is wearing the same earrings as Soo-min to mock her. However, one of them noticed that Ji-won's earrings are real and Soo-min is wearing a replica. Ji-won had borrowed the real earrings from you. Abruptly, Ji-won gets up to go to the bathroom, exactly as she did in her past life, replicating events but at her own will, and she waits for her tormentors to arrive. Yeji and others come inside the restroom and begin to talk about Ji-won. As she hears them, they realize that Ji-won might be using the toilet and begin to look for her as she's waiting to return their favor, and kicks the door. They try to confront Ji-won as they think that Ji-won has a tendency to mimic Soo-min in order to look pretty and has stolen everything from her, including Soo-min's boyfriend. She begins to dispel their misconceptions, stating that she never once copied or stole anything from Soo-min and that Soo-min was the one who exploited her kindness. When she finally had enough and wanted to leave the cafe, Yeji persisted in her bullying. She asked why she had forced Soo-min to break up with her boyfriend Eun-ho, which confused Ji-won, telling her that the two had never dated. Soo-min, however, asserts that she had a covert relationship with Eun-ho. Ji-won is upset that they simply will not acknowledge her innocence in order to give them a free pass to mistreat her. Unfortunately for Soo-min, Eun-ho shows up and dispels their misconception that he never dated Soo-min. And he is delighted to see Ji-won again. Hyuk, in the meantime, is getting scolded by his grandfather as he declines his suggestion to get married. His grandfather makes an effort to convey to him the importance of finding a compatible life partner in order to succeed. However, he is adamant about pursuing his one-sided love. Everyone starts asking Eun-ho various questions, but he chooses to ignore them and asks Ji-won if she still likes him. She is just shocked to see her first love and walks away from there. As Hyuk is waiting for Ji-won outside the restaurant, he notices her and gets amazed to see her dressed like that to attend a school reunion, and subsequently, he sees Eun-ho following her. Eun-ho rushes up to her to express his feelings as Hyuk watches the two. She claims that she never liked him and asks him to leave immediately. However, nervously, Eun-ho manages to confess that he has a crush on her. Hyuk couldn't see it and makes a call to Ji-won, asking her to come meet with him for an urgent work. As she needs to leave, Eun-ho asks for her contact details and gets her number. After receiving her at the office, Hyuk takes to a specially organized meeting where she meets with their company director Wang. The old man, however, seems to have liked her a lot, which Hyuk couldn't tolerate. As Hyuk is taking her home, they begin to have a really funny conversation with each other. However, Ji-won gets a call from Soo-min which ruins her mood all of a sudden. She smiles as soon as she receives a message from Eun-ho, and Hyuk appears to be jealous. He advises her to move on, warning her that it could be risky for her to rekindle her old school love. Suddenly, he spots her boyfriend Hwan down the road and she tries to hide from him. And Soo-min is also sitting outside her apartment. Hyuk understands the situation and keeps moving forward without stopping. Soo-min is sad because her attempt to make fun of Ji-won backfired, and gets noticed by Hwan. He tries to take her inside Ji-won's apartment. However, Ji-won has already changed the passkey and he couldn't open the door. Since they can't go inside and she won't pick up their phone, Hwan takes her outside. Hyuk drops her outside her apartment. He tries to tell her his feelings but couldn't really form the words. Later, she gets a call from Eun-ho. Excited by this, she picks up the call. As they begin to recall their school life, she gets to know that he stopped talking to her because she rejected him after he sent her a love letter. However, she doesn't recall receiving a letter from him. She asks him to meet with her to clear this misunderstanding between them, and asks him to bring her reply letter alongside. The next morning she goes to work in her new avatar, surprising everyone there. Hwan is shocked to know that her boring wife material girlfriend can look this gorgeous. And even Hyuk couldn't control himself, getting mesmerized by her beauty and tumbles. He tells her to dress appropriately as it's not suitable for work. She also points out that Hyuk is wearing lenses instead of his usual glasses and looks quite dashing. He couldn't handle all the compliments and leaves from there. As the office employees are heading back to home, Hyuk stops Ji-won as he wants to talk to her. He tells her that he wore contact lenses because he wanted to look good for her, as a way to give her hints, but she doesn't understand. However, she also recommends him to change the way he dresses to look better. Hyuk, ready to change himself, calls someone. Ji-won, in the meantime, is seen waiting at the bus stop when she spots Yu and Hyuk together. Yu is gleefully thanking him for purchasing her belongings in return for her assistance. She mistakes them for being a couple. However, they're actually siblings. Subsequently, we get to know that Hyuk also has a similar heart-shaped mark Ji-won's father draws on her allowance money. Hyuk is perplexed because he cannot figure out how to tell Ji-won to avoid Sumin and Hwan because they will betray her. He will then find it difficult to explain how he learned of this, and we discover that he is also living a second life. We are transported back to 2023, when Hyuk was attending Ji-won's funeral and saw Hwan and Sumin getting arrested for Ji-won's murder. And that is how he learns about Eun-ho and Yeji, her classmates, who bullied Ji-won because of Sumin. As he's returning home, he gets into a car accident. However, he wakes up to find that he's given a second chance at life. We then go to a flashback in which Hyuk is being made fun of by his friends in a humorous manner, and this is when he first meets Ji-won. She's drunk and doesn't know where she is going, which worries Hyuk. She tells him she's sad as no one likes her at school and she feels alone. She suddenly starts to smell alcohol from him and bites on his shoulder out of the blue. Since he does not know her home address, Hyuk takes her to a nearby park. She begins to tell him everything about her time at school and her friendship with Sumin, and they both fall asleep there. When he wakes up the next morning and discovers she is gone, he becomes upset. After the judo class at his school, he gets out the club to find Ji-won feeding a cat while complaining about how this morning she had woken beside an unpleasant-looking man and felt uncomfortable. When he discovers her feeding the same cat the next day, he is drawn to her generosity and wants to feed the cat himself. He fell in love with Ji-won and the cat in this manner. However, he couldn't approach her during his high school years, and never got a chance to confess his love to her. He surprises everyone by showing up to work the next day with a new appearance, which Hwan couldn't digest. He starts being possessive and warns Ji-won to stay away from Hyuk. Ji-won says Hyuk already has a girlfriend, but Hwan insists, calling all men a cheater. Later, Sumin tries to convince Ji-won to give her business proposal to her that will help her get a permanent position in the office. But she's not ready to do so. Suddenly manager Kim calls her. He wants her to give her business proposal to him if she wants to get approval. This worries Ji-won as she knows Sumin has good ties with manager Kim, and she will claim the proposal from him. Hyuk arrives there and asks if she wants to dine out later with him, but she declines his offer. And afterwards she goes to meet with Eun-ho at the wine shop. As they're talking, she asks him to go have dinner with her somewhere. When Hwan calls Ji-won in the meantime and does not get a response, he calls Sumin to find out where Ji-won is and finds out that she might have been out on a date with Eun-ho. During this, Ji-won had to reveal that she currently has a boyfriend. Eun-ho didn't expect that. He suspects the guy to be Hyuk, which surprises Ji-won, and asks Eun-ho how does Eun-ho know Hyuk. Hyuk, on the other hand, happens to spot Ji-won with Eun-ho together after she has rejected to go out with him, and gets sad. Though he moves ahead but couldn't really shake the thought of Ji-won being with another man. He turns around to go and talk to her. While Ji-won is walking home by herself, she feels someone is following her and rushes ahead, only to have Hwan appear in front of her. He is upset with her and believes she is having an affair with another man. Luckily, Hyuk shows up in time to defend her. Hwan is taken aback to see the general manager Hyuk there. Hyuk is furious that Hwan attempted to harm Ji-won. Ji-won intervenes to stop Hyuk, and Hwan flees from there. When she questions him about his purpose for being there, he tells her that he was just passing through and happened to see her. However, she finds it incomprehensible that he is meddling in her private affairs. According to Hyuk, he was unable to allow Hwan to harm Ji-won once more. However, she is mad. She calls him a cheater for having feelings for her despite having you as his girlfriend. After becoming perplexed, he tries to convince her that he is not a cheater because you and him are not dating. He calls you, and through their funny conversation, she realizes that they're actually siblings and not lovers. After dropping her outside her apartment, he slowly leans towards her and unexpectedly faints on her shoulders. Meanwhile, Sumin is preparing to steal Hwan from Ji-won after learning what transpired between Ji-won and Hwan. She approaches him to offer her fictitious sympathy. Hyuk, in the meantime, finds himself in the hospital, with Ji-won seated next to him. The physician claims that Hyuk fainted due to stress rather than anything more serious. Meanwhile, Hwan and Sumin are having their own romantic moments. Hyuk gets discharged from the hospital and offers her a ride back home. However, Ji-won once again rejects him. Hyuk understands her situation and gives her time to rethink. He also promises her to be a great partner if she chooses him. And the next morning, Ji-won meets with Eun-ho outside her office building where Hyuk happened to spot the two together. Yu notices Hyuk being in a bad mood and secretly messages her colleagues to beware of him for the time being. Later he goes to meet with Hwan as he's smoking on the rooftop. He warns him to break up with Ji-won as he's not a good boyfriend or a person and threatens him to never lay a finger on her ever again. In the afternoon, as they're heading to have lunch, Soo-min plans to skip the meal. However, Ji-won shows her concerns, calling her too skinny, and asks Hwan to take her out to eat something. Meanwhile, Ji-won and Miss Yang are having lunch with manager Kim. He openly threatens her to hand over her business proposal to Miss Yang and Soo-min in order for him to get promoted. Hwan takes Soo-min to a really expensive restaurant with Ji-won's credit card and successfully manages to impress her. Whilst Hyuk, as he goes through the meal kit proposal, he gets to know it's actually Ji-won's proposal and manager Kim is taking all the credit for it. When he messages Ji-won to inquire about the status of her meal kit business proposal, Ji-won replies that she is still working on it. He invites her to dinner with him later tonight once more. Even after being turned down once more, he persists and informs her that it will only be a friendly get-together. He brings her to his judo club, where she meets Dong-suk and Shin-woo, two of his friends. They attempt to teach her how to fight. Hyuk approaches and asks her to flip him. She tries, failing miserably, and he looks down on her, which infuriates her. She then pushes him from behind, causing him to fall. The next morning, she wants to confront her manager, and resubmits her meal kit proposal. However, the manager informs her that he already has thought of the same plan before her, and had taken her name out of it, and once again threatens her to willfully hand over the proposal to Soo-min and Yang in order to keep her name on it. Later, Soo-min is attempting to talk Yang into believing that she is a kind person and asking her to speak with Ji-won so that she can get some credit for her business proposal. Afterwards, Miss Yang thinks that Soo-min is a good friend of Ji-won and asks Ji-won to let her in on her business proposal. She agrees to hand over her project. However, she wants Director Wang to take the full credit for it. The meal kit proposal becomes a success. Director Wang plans to go to the United States for business. Ji-won had anticipated that as she knew the future. She makes a call to him and tells him that she's going to complain that he stole her business proposal from her to make him angry. He feels enraged, and upon noticing another man sitting beside his seat, he starts to bully the flight attendant as someone makes a video of him. Subsequently, he calls Kim and requests that he stop Ji-won from filing a complaint about having her proposal stolen. Following the widespread distribution of the video clip of Wang abusing the flight crew, the meal kit manufactured by the UK company experiences a loss of sales due to widespread boycotts. But Ji-won is happy as everything went according to her plan. Suddenly, she gets startled by Hyuk and drops her phone. When Hyuk discovers that she is listening to BTS songs, he tells her that he too enjoys listening to Spring Day, and Ji-won responds that she adores Dynamite. However, they both get shocked to realize that both of the songs are from the future.